All right, everybody, we are live on the YouTube's Stallman Smith Jr. for the Unapologetic Apologists, and John Dunphy actually should be joining me shortly. So if you saw the recent video I did where I debated John's atheist character, you already know some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about, but I wanted to be able to put it in a separate video just so it could be kind of seen in the title, and because I had another announcement I wanted to make. So let's jump right into it. The first thing I want to say is I'm going to be busy next week. So next week I won't be able to put out any videos, but I will be coming back on the 18th, so the Tuesday of the following week. So, and I'm not sure what video I'm going to be doing because scheduling things. I think I might be having Deflating Atheism back on to do a review of Jordan Peterson when he did the GQ interview, because there's a lot of stuff that gets brought up there. And so that's the first thing. I'll be coming back after today on the 18th. Another thing I wanted to bring up that I announced last time was subscribestar.com/TUA. So that's the place you can go to support this ministry, because I don't do Patreon. If you guys follow Jordan Peterson or Dave Rubin, you'll know they left Patreon specifically because they were censoring conservative voices and banning people just for having a difference of opinion. So I don't support the Patreon platform, so that's why I'm not there. But this is a place you can go to support this ministry, subscribestar.com/TUA. Now, up until just a few days ago, I only had one tire. That was, if you use that, you got basically just all the behind-the-scenes access. So basically, I do web extended interviews with my guests on. And sometimes I'll do early releases. Excuse me, if I pre-record a video. But I did add a bunch of stuff there. So there's new tires now. So there's $1 tire, $5 tire, and then there's different stuff. So there's a TUA T-shirt that you get there. I'm going to start doing a monthly hangout, and so those things. Now, the book giveaway. Again, if you saw the last episode, you know this. Is Improbable Planet by Hugh Ross. Now, if you want to get an idea of the contents on this book, it's one of the, it's very underrated in my opinion. It's so excellent. So if you want to get an idea of what's in there, you can go to the recent interview I did with Hugh Ross. I had him on the program, and we talked about redemptive purposes. It's a mouthful. Excuse me. Redemptive purposes in cosmology. So, you know, it's just such a unique take. We know about the I can't speak today. Please, what just happened? Did I just have a stroke? I don't know. We know about the cosmological argument, the fine-tuning argument, these kinds of things, and it's typically the way we typically understand these things as apologists, and the way we usually make the cumulative case, the way William Lane Craig does, is you start with generic arguments for just theism, so the cosmological argument, the fine-tuning argument, the moral argument. You can get into more sophisticated ones, the ontological argument, the contingency argument, the argument from mathematics. And these are typically meant to establish generic theism, but you really don't get into establishing Christianity until you get to the historical evidence for Jesus. Hugh Ross really makes a point to say, hey, look, in cosmology, what we can know from the fine-tuning is not just that the universe was designed for intelligent life, but specifically what we can see in the fine-tuning of the universe, going all the way back to the beginning of creation, is that the fine-tuning was specifically aimed at ultimately redeeming creatures. And that's why we named the episode, I think it was something like Redemption in Cosmology. Here he is. Well. If it isn't Senor Dunphy. Let's go. So I was just telling people about what's in this book. So, you know, obviously the fine-tuning argument is often thought of as just an argument for generic theism. But what Hugh Ross does is he shows that what we see in the fine-tuning attributes of the universe is that the creator not only designed the universe to bring intelligent life into it, but they designed the universe to ultimately redeem those creatures that he created. And so if you sign up for even the $1 tire, that is how you can enter the book giveaways, by going to subscribestar.com/TUA. Sign up for any amount, and you'll automatically be entered to win this book. And then in the future, I'll be doing another book giveaway, so keep an eye out for that. Also, this channel is nearing. Is that all the announcements I had? I'm coming back the 18th. I'm going to be taking like 10 days off or so. the book giveaway, the subscribestar.com/TUA. I am nearing 1,000 subscribers, and I was thinking about what I wanted to do for that milestone once I get there. I was thinking about contacting Frank Turk and getting him on because he was the first ever guest I had on the show, and so we could just have Frank Turk on, do a live Q&A. But in order for me to invite Frank Turk on, in order for you guys to be able to ask him questions, we have to get down to 1,000 subscribers. So please, if you're here, if you have not subscribed yet, subscribe, click notification bells, so that way you can see new videos. Because with subscriptions, it depends on what YouTube wants to do. It's supposed to be that if you're just subscribed to a channel, you automatically see new content that's released from viewers. But depending on the content of the channel, the people, who are, running YouTube and whatever, the people, I don't know what you call them, but the active, engagers, people, working behind the scenes, they go from, if they have particular viewpoints. We know this in the political realm. This isn't really a political channel, but for example, if YouTube likes to promote more liberal-leaning videos over conservative videos, so just because you're subscribed to a channel doesn't necessarily mean you'll see when new videos come up, because YouTube is specifically promoting certain content. So clicking notification bells is a great way to be able to also make sure that on top of being subscribed, you're able to see new content, and share this if you have friends who maybe aren't subscribed to the channel, or maybe even are atheists, but who you want them to see apologetic content, send it to them, ask them to subscribe. So yeah, once we hit that 1,000 subscriber mark. Meanwhile, John Dunphy, you're trying to hit 5,000 subscribers, so I'll be doing it. Tell people what they earn if they get you to 5,000 subscribers.
Well, firstly, you just lost a subscriber, literally speaking, a few minutes ago, but
it goes up and down. I borderline I'm going to get more into the political stuff, but
someone unsubscribed.
Oh, I see. Someone I know. Oh, also, yeah. I mean, so I made all of the announcements. So if anybody watching has questions, the platform is open to anything you guys want to discuss. But John, talk about, you posted on Facebook. What are your viewers going to get if they get you to 5,000 subscribers?
That was a joke, but I'm also serious about it at the same time.
Well, you have to. If people get you to 5,000 subscribers, because of that post, you're going to have to.
Yeah, no. So I was doing a live stream, and then my one friend posted a comment and was like, if people get you up to, I don't remember what the number was, but I think it was 5K, you should shave your head. So she's like, okay. I made an announcement, if people can get me up to 5,000 subscribers by September 15th, I will shave my head. If 10K, I will shave my eyebrows and head.
And once you make a commitment.
Yeah, no, I will, but September 15th.
I mean, I think it's a worth trade-off. 10,000 subscribers that quickly for your eyebrows, which grow back. I think that's certainly a worthwhile trade-off. Meanwhile, I'm still trying to cross that 1,000 milestone. So, and just to mention, the fact that I have over 900 subscribers now. A year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, that was unthought of. I remember I had 25 subscribers when I did my first interview with Frank Turek, and I was really excited, and I thought just posting a video with his name in it would shoot me up, and it didn't go that quickly, because when you only have 25 subscribers, the reach even of videos, even if you have popular titles, just doesn't get as far as you necessarily want it to. So the growing process was really slow, and there were some times when it was disheartening. But I remember John McCrae, that was the first ever live stream I did. He was the one who helped me get over that 100 subscriber mark, which was a huge milestone at the time. 100 subscribers, such a big deal, and I'm ever grateful to John McCrae for that. And it's funny, our schedules. It's funny that I haven't had him on more often than that. Him and our schedules are just really weird to work out. But I do need to get him back on. But get the atheist subscribers to make him go bald. Oh, that would be funny. Excuse me, but John, anything you want to talk about? Because I mean, until their questions really popping in, was hoping
I
I
will
was hoping to
say
get more questions by this point, so I didn't just have to ramble.
I have over 2,000 subscribers, and the most I get is maybe 20 watching a live stream if I'm lucky at one time. It's just like I don't think they actually hit the notification bells.
Yeah, good point. I mean, let me bring up my overlay here to remind people. Boom.
I say don't subscribe to you for other reasons, but
Here's maybe something I can talk about till we get some questions. So this is primarily an apologetics channel, right? This isn't a political channel. Now, of course, people who watch know huge fan of Steven Crowder, Ben Shapiro, all these guys. In fact, if you go back, I think it was like episode 11, I did it on hate speech, which is a very political topic. But I really moved away from the political stuff. I really wanted to just focus on apologetics because that was my strong suit. Anyway, politics, even though I'm a political junkie and I'm extraordinarily fascinated with it, I'm not an expert in it. Well, I'm not an expert in apologetics either, but I'm very I'm reading a lot in apologetics, and I'm just not as up to snuff on some of the political stuff I would need to be if I was going to be a regular commentator on it. And also, I didn't necessarily want to get into the crosshairs of YouTube too early on before I had enough of a following that I could fight back if anything were to happen. But, with the political climate, I'm really feeling like Christians have a duty to get more involved in politics. Me and Tim Stratton were talking about this. There's some people and a lot of churches I've been to who kind of say, as the church, we need to just kind of stand back and just call it down the middle, whether it's the Republicans or the Democrats. There's some good things on both sides, some bad things on both sides, and we're meant to just call it right down the middle. And there are times and there are places for that, but I mean, if you go watch some of Steven Crowder's recent videos, he's talked about when there's certain evil being done primarily by one political party. It's really a sign of weakness for the church to just kind of stand back and just say, agape love, we need to just pray for the country and all that stuff. It's like, no, at some point, the analogy a pastor has given in the past was like that the church needs to be something that's equivalent to the referee in a football game, right? The referee doesn't pick the winners or the losers. The referee just calls the game down the middle, and that's it. But I feel like as the church and as Christians, when you have one party who is completely anti almost every single biblical or Christian principle, and it's anti-free speech, anti-Second Amendment, anti-Israel, right? Israel, Jews are God's chosen people. One of the political parties is blatantly anti-Semitic. And you can just think of all the evil things. John, you did a live stream on your channel talking about the whole rioting, all the things that were going on there. And I'm not going to open that whole thing back up. But when you look at where the political parties stand, at some point the church has to pick favorites. Seriously, especially when you get to the abortion issue, right? One party's pro-life, one party's anti-life. They wouldn't use the term; they'd use the term pro-choice. I'll use the terms pro-abortion and anti-life because at the end of the day, that's what they are. When that's the contrast, right? You look at immigration policies. Okay, if you go to the Old Testament, what were the immigration policies in the Old Testament? It was very generous. You could come in from an outside nation, become a Jew, but guess what? There were certain ideas you had to adopt, certain practices you had to adopt. That's very consistent with the conservative position on immigration. We're supposed to be very generous. Anybody can come in, but guess what? You have to accept certain ideas, and those ideas are the ones found in the Constitution Declaration of Independence that ultimately stem from the Judeo-Christian worldview. And when there's such a contrast as there's, at some point the church has to pick favorites, and to me it's a sign of weakness when it wants to just kind of stay back and say, agape love, let's just pray for everybody. I'm not necessarily saying Jesus would have been involved in politics, because obviously that wasn't his mission. Like, if Jesus was here today, I don't think he'd necessarily be involved in politics. I think he'd be doing what he was doing, which is focusing on the hearts of individuals. And I think, as Christians, we should be doing that as well. But I think if you were to ask Jesus, are you conservative or liberal? Like, well, of course I'm a conservative. Are you kidding? Like, and I do think that, far be it from me to insult all of the liberal Christians out there, but again, with specific, just pick abortion. If you're a Christian and let's say you vote Democrat and you're more liberal, I'm sure you're also pro-life. I can't imagine you'd be a serious Christian and not pro-life. For that reason alone, I think Jesus would be picking sides. But John, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, for me specifically, politics is just boring after reading the Nicomachean Ethics. I think if we make any connections, we should try and get ethics into politics, but that won't be happening anytime soon.
Well, see, if you look at, again, some of the founders, when they said the Constitution is only for moral and religious people, this whole idea of separation of church and state has been overblown. It's not in the Constitution. Now, there is a correct principle about it, which is that the government can't be engaged in enforcing or sponsoring any sort of state religion or forcing people to believe a certain way. That being said, and this is the whole idea of God-given rights, is there's nothing about being a U.S. citizen that says you have to be a Christian, right? Of course not. That would be wrong. But there is a sense that even if you don't believe the rights came from God, you have to believe the rights came from somewhere above and beyond government, right? And whatever you want to call that is a religious principle, whether you like it or not. And so when you say ethics, it's like that's how the Constitution, Declaration of Independence were built. It was built on, hey, even if you're not religious, you have to buy into certain moral principles, right? It's a moral reality that you have a right to freedom of speech that the government does not grant and cannot take away. The government just protects it. You have a moral right to self-preservation, to own firearms, to protect yourself and your family. The government does not have the power to give that to you or to take it away. They have the right. They are simply put in place to protect it. And so, yeah, as far as ethics, I mean, that is how the founders designed the country. It's supposed to be ethics running it. Unfortunately, a lot of that, it's not the same principles today. You have, you look at Heller versus DC. It's a case on gun control not gun control, but to uphold the Second Amendment that Crowder talks about often. And, it's just kind of taken for granted because the Republican vote won out. But if you look at the dissenting vote, the vote was that private citizens did not have the right to own firearms. And so that's the contrast we're saying. It's not just that one political party is saying, maybe we should have more restrictions to try to protect people. That's what they'll say to you. But the reality is there's one political party, the Democratic Party, that does not believe private citizens have the right to own firearms. That's a serious contrast. You turn on notifications. Thank you, Josh. Carpio, is that how I say that, your last name? Do you think Christian theocracy would help the government? I don't, because I do think even if you look in the Old Testament, that's not the way it was supposed to be. And again, that's what I just stated is our founders knew it'd be a dangerous thing to enforce religion, right? That wasn't what they did, but they did say you have to accept certain moral principles in order for us to be able to coexist, and in order for us to be able to hold on to the rights that we believe we have without them corroding, is you have to buy into certain moral principles. It's funny, if you look in the book of Judges, into 1 Samuel, that's really it was really fascinating when I first read that, because in the book of Judges, it seems that what God is trying to set up for the Israelites is kind of something like we ultimately realized in the United States, where you don't have one ruler. What you have, it was a panel of judges, and hence the name of the book being Judges, but it was a panel of judges, so to where the power was balanced between them, and there was kind of a voting thing going on, and then the judges had to kind of all vote on and agree on certain things. What happened was the Israelites wanted a theocracy. So when we talk about a theocracy, that's what they begged for. And guess what? God told them this isn't a good idea. God himself didn't want a theocracy even in the Old Testament, because they essentially begged him for a theocracy. Hey, we want a king. And God warns them. He says, listen, I know you think it's a good idea to put a king in place, but once you give one person that power, it's going to be very dangerous, because he's going to start violating your rights once you give all the power. Sorry, go ahead.
I think theocracy is more the Mosaic covenant than when Solomon and Saul. I think Saul is when that controversy comes up, but I think theocracy has to do with the Mosaic covenant.
Well, yeah, I mean, but different people define it differently. Some people have told me I'm wrong in theocracy for that reason, because it's more so a covenant. And people have told me I'm wrong, well, it depends, because I think theocracy can, depending on the context, mean more than one thing. If you're talking about God being the central ruler of, say, a people, and that's all theocracy means, okay, that's fine. But then even in that context, it doesn't actually matter how the government is necessarily run, because God would be more of what you're talking about, an ethical principle of how you run things, but then the structures within that could vary. So at that point, the term theocracy wouldn't necessarily have much to do with politics. So, but often when theocracy is used, it is used in conjunction with politics, which would have to mean some kind of state religion, right? That there's a governing body and it governs by specific religious principles and would go by a text or whatever that was. That's what we see in Islamic countries now, right? They're governing according to a specific religious text and principles found in the Quran and the Hadith, and we see that's not a good thing. And so if that's what theocracy means, then certainly even in the Old Testament they weren't meant to have that. God warned them because, again, the purpose was even Saul, because remember, Saul was a godly man at first, right? The Holy Spirit dwelt in Saul. He was a very godly man, all these things. But God still recognized that even with a godly person, it's dangerous to give that authority to one person. So God is still warning them of a specific political system that gives too much power to one person, because as we know, Saul turned around and started violating those rights. So, yeah, it does depend on what you mean by theocracy. But so, yeah, theocracy insofar as God is just the central figure and you're worshiping him and he's, you're going by his principles on how to run things. That would be fine. But as far as theocracy meaning the political system and the religious system are one and the same and there's no separation, which, by the way, funny enough, separation, when we talk about a secular state, atheists want a secular state. That's a uniquely Christian idea, by the way. Right, prior to Jesus saying, "Give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and give unto God what is God's," the church and the state were one and the same. It was like that all through Judaism. It's still like that in Islamic countries. It wasn't until Christianity that it realized there should be a distinction between the two. And yeah, I would say that goes all back to the Old Testament.
Hey, that Josh kid, do you pronounce his name Carpool?
Carpio, and he said I pronounced it right. Apparently,
Carpool, I think it's Carpool.
Yeah, the program. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. So, yeah, giving away Improbable Planet by Hugh Ross. If anybody's interested in what goes in, it was one of my favorite episodes that when you and I interviewed Dr. Hugh Ross. And yeah, if you want a glimpse of what's in the book, go back to that interview I did with Hugh Ross. Basically, he makes the argument that in the fine tuning goes beyond just being an argument for generic theism, and it actually goes. You can establish through the fine tuning that not only was the universe designed for intelligent life, but it was designed with the redemption of that intelligent life in mind. So, principles that are found in the New Testament, going all the way back to cosmology and the fine tuning. So this book I'm giving away, and the way you enter that is you go ahead on our subscribestar.com/TUA. There are multiple tiers, tires. I don't know which one it is. Tires, tiers.
Tires are what you put on a car.
Okay. Any level. If you sign up for any level, you are automatically entered for the book giveaway. So, yeah, no, I appreciate it.
I think this Josh is a troublemaker.
You do?
Yeah. He doesn't even know how to pronounce his last name correctly.
He doesn't even know how to pronounce his own name. That's funny. I mean, so yeah, I gave my rant. Unless there are any other questions coming in, I mean, we can go ahead and cut this short. That way it doesn't run too long. Again, lastly, for the people just showing up, after this video is over, I'm going to be off until the 18th. I'm coming back the 18th. Hoping to do it with Deflating Atheism, doing a review of Jordan Peterson's GQ interview. But even if we can't schedule it, then we will do that eventually, and I'll do something else on the 18th. So either way, the 18th, I'll be doing an episode. Excuse me. And yeah, the book giveaway. So. And of course, depending on the tier you sign up for, you'll be getting more. If you sign up for the T-shirt one, there's that. I looked into doing masks, but let's just say that was not, convenient, because the way these websites are making the designs.
I mean, the coronavirus doesn't exist anyway. It's just so that the mask companies can sell their products more.
Yeah, that's what's going on. Yeah, maybe
actually, I could use that as an argument, conspiracy theories are more likely than the coronavirus because we've never seen the coronavirus before, COVID-19 before. So, just like with miracles.
Yeah. The atheists say, well, we have seen diseases, so there's empirical basis for diseases.
But not COVID-19.
Yeah. Yeah. What's funny? You know what I was actually just thinking about? I'll go off on another random rant. You can tell me this. So you and I disagree on the intelligent design versus evolution thing, right? But where we would agree is that whether there was special creation or evolution that occurred, there was intelligent design. That's all. Even Mike Jones points that out. Mike Jones says even for evolution to occur, you needed very specific fine tuning put into place. That's what his whole TEDx talk was about. So we all agree on intelligent design at some level. Except for John Duffy Software. Apparently that wasn't intelligently designed. It just looks weird. Cameron Bertuzzi from Caption Christianity has been posting a lot of stuff about not liking the supernatural, natural distinction. And, I tend to agree with him to a large extent. And what's funny is even if you look into, you're distracting me, even if you look in the book of, say, Deuteronomy, even the Moses, why do you do that? That was my earlier career. That was another life when I looked ridiculous like that.
I'll switch over.
Me and my friend were just discussing this. So my friend texts me a lot about different questions he has about the Bible. And he was texting me. He was saying there are two different places in Deuteronomy, and they're very close to each other. And in one instance, it talks about the son will not be punished for the sins of the father, right? But then in another place in Deuteronomy, it talks about generational curses, right? So people being cursed because of things that occurred in previous generations. And so how can we possibly reconcile these two things? Because a generational curse, if God is cursing somebody for past occurrences in that family, then that is punishing the sons for the sins of the father. So how do you reconcile the two things? And so what I told him, and I think this is right, although you can tell me if you have a different view of it, is what Moses is getting at when he's talking about generational curses. This is more kind of natural phenomena. So think about this. If you had, say, a hereditary disease, that's for all intents and purposes a generational curse, because it's like this is something that affects children through no fault of their own, right? They're not paying for the sins of their parents, but because something was in the family, it can be passed down. That's one example. Another example, let's think of this. So we know statistically that children of single parent households, there's all sorts of disadvantages to them. They're more likely to end up in the prison system. They're less likely to graduate high school. They're less likely to be socially well adjusted. They're more likely to have certain mental, not mental disorders. What's the term I'm looking for? But like less well adjusted in society. They're less likely to have a stable family of their own. All these, every other negative societal effect stems from raised in a single parent household.
I'm wearing a green shirt.
That's hilarious. And so in that sense, that kind of thing is what Moses was talking about in Deuteronomy when he's writing about generational curses, which if you look at the child of a single parent household, in a sense, he is paying for his father's sins, right? He is on the brunt end of that. He is receiving all kinds of negative effects. He's receiving a much harder hand dealt in life because of something wrong his father did, which was get the mother pregnant and then leave. Or you can say the parents, maybe the mom kicked him out, right? That can happen too. So that's what's going on. So that is very different than God looking at somebody and saying, hey, your father or your grandfather did these terrible things, therefore I'm going to punish you. It's like, no, there's just built into the laws of physics of the universe are just natural consequences to things, like if you get divorced and raise your child yourself without the other person around, that's going to have negative consequences on the children. And then who knows how many generations that can continue down until one of them, rises up and puts an end to it. So that's what's going on. So yes, so that's how you reconcile the two things. And the reason I go through all of that, and that is, by the way, what was going on that in Deuteronomy, was because they're saying, hey, look, if you leave these practices and you go in these pagan nations and start engaging all these pagan worships and worshiping false idols, then guess what? That's going to have generational effects, because then your kid is raised in a pagan nation. Your kid isn't raised in the proper Israelite nation worshiping the right God. Your kid is raised worshiping idols, and that's terrible. So that's what's happening there. Now, all that aside, the reason I bring that up is because even there, what's being recognized by the biblical writers is they're not making a supernatural natural distinction, because they're recognizing that, hey, even natural things that occur, and this isn't just in the book of Deuteronomy, this is all through the Bible, even natural things that occur ultimately goes back to God, because God is the ultimate power that created and sustains all of nature. So there's not a clear natural supernatural distinction in the Bible, because God is behind even the natural things. And so I think that's it's something that's really interesting that Cameron's bringing up, and I'm really getting more behind that lately, saying that, hey, it's not too clear to me what the proper distinction between natural and supernatural is. Now, how do I bring that back around and relate it to the intelligent design versus evolution debate? Because people want to say that proponents of IED, they want to call it a pseudoscience, and they want to say these people are appealing to a supernatural cause. And you see that in other different kinds of arguments. But sticking with the ID one, is people want to say, hey, this doesn't work with science because it's appealing to a supernatural cause. And people will often say, hey, scientists have to presuppose methodological naturalism. You hear that all the time from atheists is, hey, even if we don't believe naturalism, when it comes to science, we have to act like naturalists. Or even if you're a religious person, when it comes to science, you have to be a naturalist. You have to be a methodological naturalist with regard to science. Now, of course, there's a debate even in that, but let's just say I assume that principle, right? Let's say that's a perfectly fine principle. This is what Stephen Meyer points out, is that even on methodological naturalism, intelligent design does not violate that. You can think that the evidence in biology points to intelligent design, and you're not violating methodological naturalism. How do I make that case? Well, I make it like this. The same way Stephen Meyer points out that if you come across the Rosetta Stone, right, intelligence lies behind that. Even if you don't know what the intelligence was, that's not a natural occurrence. You can think of examples like Mount Rushmore. You study Mount Rushmore, this isn't wind and erosion. This is intelligence that is behind that. Now, why does invoking intelligence for the Rosetta Stone around Mount Rushmore not violate methodological naturalism? Well, because as the atheists or the naturalists will like to believe, we're natural entities too, right? Who we are and our intelligence, that ultimately, is a natural thing as well. Well, so when it comes to ID, the only point, no one is looking, even in the ID department, is looking at the ID evidence and saying, aha, Yahweh. They're not looking at biology and saying, aha, Yahweh. They're saying, aha, intelligence. They're saying that the evidence points to intelligence. And for all intents and purposes, as Richard Dawkins said, and what was it, that not the Zeitgeist movie, it was something else.
Page 356. It is far worse. Oh, God.
That's okay. No, I'll get to that after I say this. It could be aliens. Here's the thing is, if you just recognize in biology that intelligence lies behind biology, for all you know, it could be aliens, and that wouldn't violate methodological naturalism. Now, it just so happens when you couple that with other arguments, as Stephen Meyer does, like the fine-tuning of the universe, right? Because fine-tuning isn't just in biology. It also goes back to the fine-tuning of the universe. You can make your cumulative case that it is God. But just invoking intelligence to explain design in biology does not violate methodological naturalism. And so you're not necessarily invoking the supernatural when you do that. And so I just wanted to use that as an example to highlight that this supernatural natural distinction may not be as helpful as we've tried to make it in the past. But I'm not claiming to have a philosophy or one specific answer on how to deal with that, but I'm just kind of giving you my thoughts to kind of open up the inquiry. But you mentioned something, so some more questions in the comment section. Did you say something about Star Wars? Was that in the questions? Because I'm looking at the questions, I don't see it. Do you think the vaccine is a wave from not the vaccine? I mean, do we need vaccines? I think if anything's a wave to the mark, I mean, just look at how certain stores are saying if you don't pay an exact change, you can't use cash. You have to use credit cards. Some stores have just even said you just can't use cash. Period. You have to use credit cards. That kind of stuff is because ultimately that's what is going to be the mark, is they're going to get rid of all cash, and then eventually the chip that's in your credit card is going to go in your hand or in your forehead. That's where that's all going to go. So if anything, people are using COVID as an excuse to bring in the technology that will lead to the mark. But I don't think the vaccine itself is going to lead to a mark. I think the vaccine is just medicine. Obviously, we need the vaccine. Now, you make a point about, I think you could make a fair point about, let's say the vaccine is, let's say they come out with a vaccine and there's, say, a significant amount of research. Let's say that research is half the research says it works, the other half says it's too under development, there's too many side effects, and it doesn't even prevent COVID anyway. And then so there's a debate about whether or not to get it, and then the government issues a law that says you have to get it. And here's the thing: I have a whole controversial opinion on this. I think generally vaccines, the government should be allowed to tell you to get your child vaccinated. I know my opinion is very controversial on that, but when it comes to something like this, if because if the research weren't clear, then I think it might be dangerous to let the government. So I think the vaccine obviously isn't a wave to the mark, but you might say giving the government the power to tell you to put something in your body is a wave to the power that will be able to implement the mark. But again, even if you look in Revelations, the mark is, as John McCrae points out, associated with worship of the beast. So you have to worship the beast and get the mark. That's what excludes you from heaven. But that's a whole rant. Do you have any thoughts on it, John?
I don't. And don't get me started on the whole Revelation thing. I'm going through Revelations again. Revelation.
Yeah. We hold slight. I mean, I don't actually know that we disagree with on. I'm just going to admit that I'm not that studied on it. So I'm not going to take 100% opinion. I think no matter what position you take, I think no matter what, well, that shouldn't be true because there are hyper preterists. I do think it should be at least fairly uncontroversial that at least some of it is going to take place in the future, because otherwise, what's going to happen at the end of the world when Christ returns? That's at least some of it happens right before Christ returns a second time. So, regardless of what you think already happened, there would be a debate about the degree, but. Yeah, there's not necessarily a whole lot going on in the chat, so unless there's anything you specifically want to talk about, I could go ahead and end it. I did rearrange my bookshelf. You guys can't see it. Hold on. I got my whole William Lane Craig, so I got my Reasonable Faith certificates that I earned by completing the whole Reasonable Faith course.
What's my name on here?
I don't want to put it up there. So yeah, Philosophical Foundation for Christian Worldview, the Blackwell Compendium of Natural Theology, On God, Reasonable Faith, Time Eternity, God Overall, and his new book, The Atonement and Death of Christ. So looking forward to getting into that. I've got to finish all my Ravi Zacharias books first. Yeah, this is I have all Ravi's books that he got. This is the one I'm currently reading. Quite an excellent book. If you follow the Facebook page, I've been posting photos out of the book because he just makes some excellent points. Yeah, no, I mean, lest I just ramble on about nonsense, I guess I'll just draw the episode. In my YouTube description, there's a link to the Facebook page, the Unapologetic Apologist Facebook page. You can go there and message me through there.
Don't like or follow, though.
No, like and follow. And yeah, I guess just to summarize, subscribestar.com/TUA. Excuse me. Multiple tiers. And if you sign up for any amount, you're automatically entered to win this book, Improbable Planet. And again, I return on the 18th, hopefully, with the episode I mentioned earlier. If not, then maybe I'll do a Q&A, or maybe we'll play a Devil's Advocate or something.
I'm angry at you, apparently.
Yeah. Until then, I really appreciate you guys being here. I really appreciate everyone who's subscribed, who's helped me get this far. And yeah, like I said earlier, trying to, if you want me to get Frank Turek on to do a live Q&A with everybody, get me to 1,000 subscribers, and that'll be what I get him back on. So if you're here, you haven't subscribed, click the subscribe button, notification bells, and or send this to some friends. Let them know. Share it on Twitter. Share it on your Facebook page. Help get us to 1,000 subscribers. I really do appreciate it. God bless everybody, and we'll see you next time.